What kind of experience is it to look too much like a bad person? Wu Xin, a young man who claims to be honest and responsible in the new era. I have never done anything bad since I was young, and the worst thing I ever did was to score 30 points on a test and hide a test paper. But Wu Xin has always had a problem. He looks really villainous. He was once reported by his neighbors 7 times within a week for his suspicious appearance, and was warned by the police not to mess around here because he went out to buy a top cake. Passing by the scene of the fight, he was tortured back as the mastermind. This has always made Wu Xin very worried. Until one time he went on a trip to Hengdian and was caught by a director who was in urgent need of a role. At this glance, it is 10,000 years. Director. That's it. You're the person I'm looking for. From then on, Wu Xin embarked on a path of no return. He became the most insightful person on the screen. Some people asked why Wu Xin could portray bad people so much. The director usually answers, Wu Xin, just take some action. Finally, someone conducted a survey and found that all the characters played by Wu Xin combined could kill 4 boxes of bullets. Famous market noodles are a mixed bag. Before watching, ask yourself if your monthly pass is guaranteed to be cooked. Keywords of the novel. This actor's punishment without a pop-up window, this actor's punishment complete collection download, this actor's punishment latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. What kind of experience does a person who looks too similar to a bad person have? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. What kind of experience does a person who looks too similar to a bad person have? This book has a slow pace and many detailed descriptions. If you don't mind, don't read it. Name. Wu's crime. I'm asking you for your name. I didn't make you so anxious to apologize for yourself. Are you really having a ghost? In an interrogation room, dim lighting combined with a simple interrogation table and a small torture table similar to a baby chair, an angry police officer shouted loudly and slapped the table hard, with a black line on his face. Officer. Don't talk to me about these useless things, name. These words, combined with the slogans on the wall with blue background and white text, read, be frank, be lenient, resist strictly, creating a strong sense of oppression. On the prisoner's chair, a young man sat. This young man looks very young, probably in his 20s, with a handsome face that can be easily seen in the crowd. He has already reached the average appearance of readers on a certain novel website. But the temperament that can be recognized at a glance in this crowd is not very good. The eyes of young people belong to willow leaf eyes. Although their eye shape is very attractive, they have a sharp sense like a blade, combined with sharp facial lines and a high nose bridge, coupled with a not too outrageous scar on the face, there is a very aggressive feeling. It looks like this person is very fierce, with terrifying eyes, and combined with the scar on his face, it looks very suspicious, as if pulling on a mask the next second gives a feeling of wanting to stab someone. It really matches the scene at this moment, just like Yomei with you. Faced with the police officer's question, the young man opened his mouth and said helplessly, Officer, what I mean is, my name is Wu Xin, and I speak Wu's name. It's the sin of the sinner. The officer in charge of the interrogation was clearly stunned for a moment, then coughed lightly, cleared his throat, made a few notes in his notebook, and then asked, Gender. Male. Wu Xin answered the question with some helplessness and fluency, looking as clear as an old customer. Next, there was a flurry of personal information exchange, with one side cooperating well and the other not having to spend too much saliva. After a moment, the police officer finally asked, Who are you, the crazy 3 who stabbed someone this time? What role did you play in this incident? I passed by there, I had no idea what happened, and I didn't know anyone was fighting there either. Wu Xin sighed leisurely and reluctantly replied. Then he looked next to the presiding officer, there was also a police officer. Based on Wu Xin's past experience of drinking tea, it will be his turn to make an appearance. Sure enough, as soon as Wu Xian looked over, the other police officer spoke up. Young man, I advise you not to act recklessly. Your current situation is that you can still try to handle things leniently by being honest with others. Some things will only become more and more difficult to handle if you speak too hard. If something happens that we don't want to see, it won't be worth the loss. Very good, as expected. Another police officer continued, if it's really like what you said, why were you standing with Jiansan and the others when we arrived? Wu Xin took a deep breath and continued, I really passed by. I went to have dinner at that time, and the person happened to run out next to me with a knife. Then he realized that there were already a bunch of people around him. And then, coincidentally, you came and handcuffed me. If you don't believe me, you can go check the surveillance footage. We didn't have any contact before that, and I did pass by. The two police officers looked at each other in response. In fact, if it weren't for certain circumstances, they wouldn't have been able to arrest a person as a suspect in a case to investigate suspicion. But the situation at that time was. Not long ago, an extremely heinous brawl occurred, and both sides have reached the level of violence, which is difficult to tolerate in today's rule of law society. This story is probably nothing more than some emotional disputes. A, also known as the Crazy Three, discovered that his wife B had been cheating all along, and then went over with his brothers C, D, E, F and others to catch the adultery. As a result, he caught his other brother G and his partner H. The three of them were playing Zhuge Liang's game together, and even B had a long-standing illicit relationship with suspect A, who was also the younger brother I of Crazy Three. So, in a fit of anger, A lost his sanity and caused today's headache-inducing emotional dispute. Then, Wu Xian was really at the scene, and happened to be in the center of that group of people when the police arrived. When everyone was subsequently tortured, all the people involved in the fight, including ABCDFG, looked at Wu Xian in unison. Cooperating with Wu Xin's sharp and cold gaze, it was like a group of little brothers looking at their core, as if at that time, as long as Wu Xin gave a command, they dared to hold on to the guy and betray his note. So, under the gaze of everyone, Wu Xian was successfully handcuffed back and it was treated as a special focus. Of course, the development of this matter has also been influenced to some extent by external factors of Wu's crime. In fact, the reason why Wu Xian is not too anxious is also very simple, because similar incidents have occurred more than once. Due to his external appearance, he has encountered many bloody scenes that others wouldn't even think of. So, he appears to be very experienced here. Of course, the main reason why he won't panic is because he is also aware that with the current legal system, as well as the process and technology of case investigation, the probability of truly catching the wrong person is extremely small. The fact is that when the red-faced police officer looked incredulous and wanted to continue interrogating Wu, the door to the interrogation room was opened. Another police officer came in, handed over a report, and then possessed himself to say something to the two people in charge of interrogation. Then, the two interrogating officers looked at the documents in their hands with a bewildered and incredulous expression. What role does Wu Xian play between you all? We don't know any Wu Xin, the young man who was arrested with you. We don't know each other. Why were you all looking at him at that time? Just because I don't know each other. Subsequently, there was a series of monitoring and analysis data, as well as some detailed investigation data. The conclusion is that Wu's crime is not related to this case. Looking back at the interrogation chair, Wu Xian raised his hand to signal handcuffs. The two police officers awkwardly smiled. Wearing a silver bracelet feels quite heavy, Wu Xin said softly. Click. Finally, at the signal of the police officer, the silver bracelet on Wu Xian's hand was untied. The red-faced police officer, who had just been ferocious, smiled awkwardly and said, I'm sorry, Comrade Wu, everything was just a misunderstanding. It's okay, I'm used to it. As long as I can help you guys, why don't you let me go back for dinner? Okay. Finally, after going through the process, Wu Xian was still invited out and received some compensation items, a box of rice, and a box of milk before leaving. Carrying a box of food, Wu Xian walked out of the station gate, with the station as the background, holding a box of food in his hand, looking around at the bustling streets. A mother with a child on the roadside saw Wu Xian's gaze coming and quickly pulled the little girl's hand away. Wu Xin looked up at the sky and said, "What kind of experience is it when you look too much like a bad person?" Dingling bell, at the same time, Wu Xian's phone rang. Wu Xian picked up his phone, glanced at the caller ID, and answered the call. "Hello. Hey, come on, Sichuan and Hunan cuisine again. I have the product you asked me to find, it's very pure. Come on, hurry up. Ah, have you finally found it? Thank you, come right away." Wu Xian held his phone and smiled. However, in the eyes of outsiders, this smile may seem eerie, combined with a naturally sharp and cold gaze, and a slightly tilted head, as if it carries a sense of oppression with its own shadow. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Honesty is a crime of Wu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Honesty is a crime of Wu. Hanging up the phone, Chief Wu breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, it was resolved within a day, and it didn't really take 24 hours to come to a clear conclusion. And this kind of thing is actually not the first time Wu Xian has experienced it. Wu Xian, 24 years old this year, has just graduated from graduate school and hasn't had time to find a job yet. He is an ordinary and honest young man, and his grades are very good. He has been a neighbor's child since childhood, and he is also kind-hearted and willing to help others. Since graduating from university, Wu Xian has been staying in Shanghai without returning to his hometown, hoping to find his own future in this first-tier city. He is just an ordinary traveler. Yes, that's right, Wu Xin is still a traveler. This is the deepest secret hidden in Wu Xin's heart, the kind he has never told anyone before. And the time it took to travel is not short, it was over 10 years ago. The current world is called Blue Star, and the country it is in is called Hanxia country. The city it is in is called Shanghai, which is one of the most developed cities in Hanxia. Even in the world, it is an international metropolis and the economic center of Hanxia. The so-called Hanxia, also known as Hanzhuxia, is not bad. In this world, apart from some ancient histories that are different from their past lives and some paths of cultural development that are also different, many other details are not much different. Someone may be very puzzled if they know. Since he is a traveler, why hasn't Wu Xian been as powerful as others? At first, when he first crossed over, Wu Xin also fantasized about some things, such as the golden fingers and systems written in the novel, and then opened another door to the fantasy world and reached the pinnacle of his life. But the result was nothing, novels were all deceitful, and his life was calm and peaceful. If he were to copy novels like some other urban travel articles, he wouldn't have such a good brain. He can remember so many details of the books he has read, and even after a long time interval between many novels, he would forget even the content. Even when he first crossed over, he was not of age, and even if he could write, he couldn't sign a contract. Belonging to is catching the worst time. For example, copying songs and so on. Laughing to death, Wu Xin doesn't even know how to sing, and his understanding of music theory is completely blank. If you ask him to recognize a note, he can't even recognize it. How can he copy a song? Because there is a hot knowledge that in the process of learning to sing, in addition to skills, it is the accumulation of time to develop one's own vocal cords, vocal methods, and resonant cavities. These are not things that can be completed overnight. Is it really possible for a professional singer to cross over to another untrained person? Do you think he can still sing? So, the path of copying songs has also been cut off. He was nothing more than an ordinary person who only enjoyed watching dramas and movies as a pastime in his past life. Perhaps an ordinary life is the most suitable for him. So, over time, Wu Xin gradually merged with his current life and completely became an ordinary person in a new world. After all, he has a stable life, loving parents, worry-free food and clothing, good grades, and he will definitely have a good future. This is the most authentic crime of Wu. But the problem is, the Wu crime in the eyes of others is not like this. This brings us back to the incident we experienced today, where we passed by the scene of a fight and were taken hostage by the mastermind. If this had happened to someone else, it would have been quite outrageous. But if it happened to Wu Xin, it wouldn't be outrageous because, as just mentioned, this is not the first time he has experienced such a thing. In the eyes of the neighbors who rented the house, Wu Xin is a suspicious figure with strange and sneaky behavior, suspected of being a big owl engaged in illegal activities while renting a house. He sneaks back home in the middle of the night every day. So I was reported by my neighbors 7 times within a week, on average once a day. After the police investigated, I faced my neighbor and clarified Wu's crime before the incident finally passed. The actual situation is that during that time, Wu Xin was addicted to games every day and fought fiercely at internet cafes overnight in order to earn more points. In the eyes of strangers, he is the least approachable person, belonging to the dangerous element, and appears very fierce at first glance. I once wanted to buy some top cake on the street, but I was queuing up wearing a mask when the police came over to warn me not to argue here. Even when I was a child, there was a bad guy outside the school who robbed students of money. He was the only one in the class who had never been robbed. Campus violence seemed to be completely isolated from him and would not happen to him at all. So, if this kind of thing happens today, Wu Xin has actually become accustomed to it. Perhaps this is his life. However, his appearance was given by his parents, and he doesn't have any good options. Of course, the scar on his face, which was accidentally scratched by a pencil sharpener when he was a child, also had a significant contribution. Although he did not disfigure himself, it greatly doubled his already cold and vicious temperament. But fortunately, today is not without good things. He entrusted his friend to buy something for a long time, and finally it arrived. So, Wu Xian left the police station in a very good mood and planned to go to the appointment. On the way, he also saw a fruit shop, so he went in to look for a while and selected a sugarcane. Just this one, half of it, Wu Xin said, pointing to the sugarcane. This kind of hot weather, if you come with a sugarcane, it must be excellent. Okay, the shop owner nodded and picked up a sugarcane, cut it in 2, then took out the one that Wu wanted and asked, "Do you want to peel it?" "No need," Wu Xin shook his head and said. "Good." The shop owner nodded and wrapped the entire sugarcane in a black plastic bag. Wu Xin picked up the car and called for a Didi, heading towards Haolai Chuanxiang restaurant. On the other side, come back to Sichuan Hunan restaurant. It's more appropriate to say it's a Sichuan Hunan restaurant than to say it's an indoor food stall. After all, Sichuan cuisine already has many Jianghu dishes, which belong to the type with strong Jianghu and market atmosphere. At this moment, the restaurant is particularly lively. Table after table of guests are playing boxing, drinking alcohol, or chatting. However, something unpleasant seems to have happened here at this moment. Do you have long eyes when you walk? Didn't you see that all the vegetable soup was spilled on me? Okay, I'm sorry, okay, don't get in my way. You're so amazing. Pa, the sound of tapping the table rang out, and both tables of people immediately stood up, their swords and crossbows tense. At one of the tables, there was a strong man wearing a floral shirt and a gold chain, with a scruffy beard and a large floral arm. The big men at the other table were also unwilling to be outdone. What a special thing, I am Chao Nima. It's me, Kaonima. Don't let the dog bark. Do dogs bark again? Suddenly, it was a conversation with a high content of mother. After a friendly interaction and a long exchange of blessings such as, "I love you," and "I wish you all the best in your heart" for 3 days, both sides turned their heads. Damn it, I'm calling someone, don't be cowardly. Who's bothering whose turtle son? We'll call out too. Everyone had already drunk some forced liquor, and after drinking it, everyone was boasting about the best atmosphere with the most enthusiasm, so naturally no one was willing to convince anyone. So the atmosphere became even more lively, and as the two sides were about to merge, the boss quickly came up to mediate. However, at this moment, the glass door of the store was pushed open. Step on, a sound of footsteps rang out, and everyone's gaze swept across. The next moment, the shop quieted down. Isn't it quite lively just now? Why isn't there any noise? I saw a man dressed in black walking in with a fierce expression. His eyes were very cold, his neck was slightly tilted, and his head was slightly raised. The man had a scar on his face and was holding a cigarette in his mouth. When he was at the door, he let out his cigarette and walked in, stepping on his cigarette butt. The man exhaled his last breath of smoke, holding a long object completely wrapped in a black plastic bag and dragging it behind him. At first glance, he looked at the two tables of big men who had just started arguing. Goo! Two people at the table swallowed their saliva together and looked at the long black plastic bags in the man's hand, trembling all over. Both groups of people were cursing and cursing in their hearts. What a special thing, it's not about morality. You even call it a leader. Now that we are in a rule of law society, are we not afraid of being struck by lightning? When this thing pulls the trigger, hitting someone will result in bruises and bruises, right? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Take you on a tour to Hengdian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Take you on a tour to Hengdian. Wu Xin feels a bit strange. Why did the restaurant, which was just bustling with people, suddenly lose its voice after I entered? And everyone is looking at themselves. This made Wu feel a little embarrassed and roast. Isn't it quite lively just now? Why isn't there any noise? Wu Xin said this sentence while being very puzzled and talking to himself. Of course, it was in his own eyes. He was completely unaware of how much ambiguity such a sentence, combined with his own face, had caused. Forget it, forget it. Wu Xin began to habitually look back and forth at each table. Because he wants to schedule a table with his friend. This gaze fell on the diners, especially the big men who were arguing at the two tables, appearing particularly penetrating, as if searching for their enemies, and then ready to pull out the thing in hand at any time, rushing up and chopping indiscriminately. Wu Xin, here. But soon, the person Wu Xin was looking for waved. After all, the commotion of Wu Xin's entry was too eye-catching for anyone to overlook. I saw a young man wearing a T-shirt waving his hands in a window seat. Wu Xin also waved in response and walked over to sit down. This clearly didn't seem like a troublemaker's attitude, which relieved the two big men and even the boss. Even the two tables of people who had just been in a state of tension seemed to have reached a consensus, no longer arguing. They settled the bill one by one and left, not forgetting to give each other a fierce glare in the end. Wu Xin sat down on the table and slapped the long object in his hand onto the table. And the person sitting opposite Wu Xin, I can only recognize it when I look closer, it turns out to be a girl. It can only be said that from the appearance, one can still tell that she is a girl. A head of clean and neat short hair, paired with a melon seed face and big eyes, although the face shape is soft and beautiful, short hair still brings a sense of conciseness. Wearing a simple T-shirt and jeans, drinking a cup of milk tea. A very handsome girl, it can be seen that if she had long hair, she would probably be a stunning beauty. She carefully scrutinized Wu Xin and finally said, "Your style is still like this, and you are not afraid to wait for the store owner to directly report and arrest you." I just came out of the bureau. Wu Xin reluctantly untied the knot of the plastic bag, took out a large cane, and handed it to the waiter who came up. "Beauty, could you please help me peel off the skin? Of course, if it's convenient, please help me cut it." The waiter looked at the contents of the bag, which turned out to be sugarcane, and breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly signaled that there was no problem and took it down. The short-haired girl's gaze returned to Wu Xin and asked with a smile, "Has this been misunderstood again?" "Yeah, there was a fight today." Wu Xin began to talk about a series of horrible experiences today, and roast. The girl also nodded occasionally. And this girl, or can be said to be a tomboy, is actually Wu Xin's best friend, without one. This friendship has been around since childhood. The girl's name is Pigeons, and she is one of the few people who is not afraid of Wu's crimes. The two have known each other since middle school. At that time, although Wu Xin had not yet grown up, his temperament of not being close to others and not being easy to deal with had already taken shape. Even the mischievous children in the class would be scared to cry by Wu Xin, so no children would play with him anymore. And Pigeons is an exception. Since childhood, in Wu Xin's impression, Pigeons has been a carefree tomboy. If Wu Xin is fake, no one dares to provoke him, he belongs to the temperament type of player. So, Pigeons is really someone who dares to provoke her. She really knows how to fight you, and if she can, she won't force you too much. Of course, in Pigeons' words, she has been jealous of evil since childhood. Pigeons soon noticed Wu Xin, who didn't speak and didn't have any friends to play with. So, the two of them started a friendship. After all, they were the kind of people in the class who didn't have many children daring to get close to. Boys didn't dare to play with Wu Xin, while girls were afraid of Pigeons. It's simply a resonance deep in the soul. Of course, the fate of this friendship has lasted until today, when the two of them were admitted to the same middle school and high school. In the end, they all went to university in Shanghai. However, Wu Xin graduated from Fudan University, while Pigeons entered the National University of Defense Science and Technology. During this period, Pigeons also enlisted in the military and became a tank soldier, belonging to the female version of Beta. It wasn't until recently that she returned home from the military and planned to continue her studies. So, on Pigeons' body, you can also see the cool and confident demeanor of many female soldiers, as well as the unique competence and hairstyle of soldiers. It has to be said that compared to Wu Gui, Pigeons is truly outstanding. Since childhood, she has been the one who can stabilize Wu's academic performance. She was the first to get a soft start at the age, and in the college entrance examination at that time, she also won the favor of Hengdian University, the best institution in the Han Xia country. However, Pigeons ultimately gave up the invitation to Hengdian University on the grounds that she was too far from home and didn't want to go, and instead chose to come to Shanghai to study like Wu Xin. At that time, Pigeons half-jokingly said to Wu Xin, "Being close, we can also take care of each other." Pigeons learned everything very quickly. She had bundles of certificates and awards at home, and even had a military parade. At that time, she was in the extremely eye-catching female soldier formation. "It's been so long, you're still the same." After the two finished ordering, Wu Xin smiled and said something. "You're not the same. I thought you could wear off some of that kind of temperament after graduating and entering society, but it still hasn't changed. If you go to northern Myanmar like this, I don't think anyone dares to provoke you." Pigeons gave Wu Xin a look of anger and handed him a cup of milk tea, saying, "No, it's yours." "Thank you." Wu Xin saw that it was his favorite flavor, so he took it, inserted a paper straw, and drank it, taking a long sigh of relief. It has to be said that it is indeed much tastier than the tea in the bureau. "Do you have any plans for coming back this time? You probably won't be returning to the army again, will you?" Wu Xin asked. "No, I'm discharged from the military. I'll go to school first and get my graduation certificate." Pigeons said, "What about you? Have you found a job? I'll warn you. You promised to finish school together, but you can't play tricks. You want to accompany me to finish school in Shanghai. Who says we're the best brothers, right?" As Pigeons spoke, she secretly used her spare light to pay attention to Wu Xin's reaction. Wu Xin's gaze came over, and she immediately averted her gaze and looked around. Don't worry, I'm not ready to leave Shanghai in the short term. After all, there are also many opportunities for development here, Wu Xin said, but there was an indescribable worry in his eyes. However, I haven't found a job yet, and my external image has become a big obstacle. If this were to be placed on someone else, how could it sound like nonsense? After all, when looking for a job, it's usually based on ability. Although there are also external factors that affect the job search, it's purely because the image is not up to standard. It's estimated that Wu Gui is still the first one. He is not willing to casually find some low-entry professions. After all, he is still a top student. This has been particularly troubling for him recently, and he has always been quite flustered. Upon hearing this, Pei Jianing didn't know how to comfort her. After a moment of silence, she said, I think it's more suitable for you to go out for a walk in the near future. How about this? I'll go on a trip with you this time and see if we can relax. Where to travel? Wu Xin asked in confusion. How about Hengdian? It's close and quite fun, why don't we go take a look together? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Troubles of the production team and Meng, who flies pigeons. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Troubles of the production team and Meng, who flies pigeons, Hengdian. Wu Xin frowned, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. For this city or region, its perception is actually the same as that of most ordinary people. I only know that it is a place for filming, the film and television center of Hanxia, where many TV dramas and movies are produced. But their understanding of that place is never deep, let alone the idea of going there specifically. How about it? Do you want to try a spontaneous trip? Pei Jianing smiled slightly. I won't leave too far, but I can set off immediately and come back after playing. It's important to relax and take a break from my mood, which is also beneficial for my future mindset. Then what I asked you to bring? Wu Xin hesitated to speak. Oh, isn't it just a salted fish? It can't spoil. Pei Jianing said nonchalantly. This is what Wu Xian asked her to help bring, some local specialties from home, pure handmade pollution-free salted fish, and some dried seafood. They were born in a small coastal town. When Pei Jianing returned from military service, he also made a trip to his hometown, but Wu Xin did not go back. Therefore, Wu Xin asked Pei Jianing to bring some local specialties with him. And at this moment, on the other side, Hengdian Film and Television City, the filming site of The Giant Owl. At this moment, as the director of The Big Owl, Zhou Ming's anger is almost reaching the Pacific Ocean, with a posture of exacerbating global warming with a sigh of anger. Because, as Zhou Ming is showing at this moment, he is indeed quite worried. As a new director, Zhou Ming has just graduated from the directing department of Shanghai Film and Television Academy, which can be considered as completing the first step of accumulating experience as a director. He was originally full of ambition, about to showcase his talents, and had many imaginations about his future. Just like every young person who has just entered this circle, Zhou Ming also has his own dream, hoping to make a big hit film of his own. This, The Great Owl, is a work that he has polished for nearly 4 years. Starting from his school years, he has been accumulating himself while planning this work. The script was written by himself, and everything came from his own hands. He is very confident in his story and firmly believes that once it can be made, it will definitely be favored in the market. But here comes the problem. When he was on campus, he thought perfectly. Only when he truly took his own step did he truly realize how naive his past thoughts were and how difficult it was to make a good film. The impatience in this circle far exceeded his imagination. Firstly, there is the issue of sponsorship. According to Zhou Ming's original idea, with such an excellent film, it would be easy to attract a bunch of sponsorships to keep himself financially secure. However, when he actually brought the materials to the door to sponsor, the script, as well as the things prepared by Zhou Ming, they didn't even glance at them, and directly asked how many famous actors there were. But Zhou Ming is just a poor graduate who hasn't even established his own private studio. Where did he get the capital to hire those well-known actors? The whole film is basically just his fresh classmates with good acting skills from the same school. So he begged his grandfather to tell his grandmother, and only then did he secure an investment of 5 million yuan. The only one, who is barely well-known, is also a former actor he has had a long-standing relationship with, and he asked his grandfather to tell his grandmother, because he is a current internet celebrity. That is a tough guy actor named Meng. When this actor was young, he also filmed works that were popular throughout the country. The anti-Japanese war-themed TV drama still has high popularity today. However, this Meng seems to have not appeared in any film or television works for a long time now. When Zhou Ming first approached him, he was still live streaming and happily selling his own wine. Finally, it was Zhou Ming who spent 1/5 of his budget, using the maximum salary he could afford, to bring out the only well-known actor in his group. And Meng is also going to play the most important villain character in this movie, a big drug lord. It is precisely because Meng was found that this film has reached its current stage. The preliminary work has been fully prepared, and we just need to start filming directly after the startup ceremony. But the question is, since everything has been planned, theoretically speaking, it should be happy, but why is Zhou Ming so troubled at this moment? The reason is actually very simple, because not long ago, he went to great lengths to find the pillar and life. Saving straw, nothing more. Yes, it's Meng the former well-known actor and current internet celebrity, who has mocked him. It hasn't been long since filming started, but suddenly Meng demanded a raise in the film's salary. The reason was that she had at least produced works that were well-known to the public, and her popularity was still well-known, so she shouldn't only receive such a small salary. So, he demanded on the spot that Zhou Ming receive an additional 1 million yuan in film pay. This almost made Zhou Ming spit out a mouthful of old blood. The budget was originally limited, and he had already made a great decision to offer Meng a movie reward of 1 million yuan. He gritted his teeth and took it out, enduring the feeling of a heart attack. What if we add more? He doesn't even know if this budget is enough to make the film. After all, he was already nervous and had already prepared to split a penny in half. How could this situation happen again now? Zhou Ming naturally couldn't agree to such a request no matter what. After all, the contract was also signed, so the other party couldn't possibly run away, right? After all, a breach of contract requires payment of a penalty, although he was grateful and did not set much penalty. But in fact, there are also quite a few. My soul is weak. But he never expected it. Meng really just wiped oil on the soles of her feet. The last sentence he left behind was, "I'm still not quite suitable for this drug lord role. After all, as you know, I've always been a person with a very upright image, and I'm still suitable to be a man standing in the sunshine." However, not long after, just a few days after Zhou Ming refused to increase his pay, the crew of the neighboring film, Sniper, issued an official announcement directly. Together with the national childhood idol Meng they will be showcased in the annual tough guy drama, Sniper. It's almost like carving a capital sentiment on my face. Originally, the neighboring crew was completely different from him. He stood in front of others like a stinky little brother, without any respect, and even a fart could suffocate him. Now it's over, the pillar I finally found has also been dug up by others. This put the originally planned production team on hold, putting Zhou Ming in a dilemma. This made Zhou Ming so anxious that his liver was hurting. Where should he find another actor for this temporary role? There are few people who are originally suitable for this type of role, let alone professional actors. There are not many professional actors who can handle this type of role. If heaven could drop one, and that person would fit everything and look villainous, that would be great. Of course, Zhou Ming also knew that he was daydreaming. How could such a thing happen? Thank you to the book friend for giving a reward. Whale sharks feed sheep. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Neglected Crime of Wu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The neglected crime of Wu. Hengdian town is a town under the jurisdiction of Dongyang City, located in the central and southern part of Dongyang City, Jinhua City, Jiangsu Province. Although it is a town, its popularity is well known throughout the country. Because there is the largest film and television base in Hanxia here, where countless young, middle-aged and elderly people with dreams and dreams of overnight fame accumulate year-round. This type of person is called a horizontal drifter. Of course, there are also various celebrities and superstars that are rare in the eyes of ordinary people appearing here year-round. This is a very interesting place. It can be said that it is full of stories and buries many people's so-called dreams. Of course, it also makes many girls bump into the south wall and eventually bleed, dog head. It's quite interesting whether to say something or not. Among the bustling tourists, there is a young man and woman touring the 1.1 restored Forbidden City. They just finished taking photos. It was Pigeons and Wu Xin who was forcibly brought over to accompany him. At this moment, Wu Xin was carrying a backpack and a bag of food in his hand, looking around with great interest. Because there are some girls wearing ancient costumes dancing in the palace not far away, combined with the 1.1 restoration of the ancient palace scene at this moment, it can be considered pleasing to the eye. And these are mostly small actors who work in Hengdian. When no one asks them to play corpses and passers-by on weekdays, they will also contact the official of the film and television city and perform some performances in the scenic area. How about it? Come out and see a different scenery, don't you immediately feel much better? Pigeons smiled and asked. Indeed, Wu Xin nodded. I never thought that Hengdian would be like this before. It turns out it's also a scenic spot. Pigeons said, anyway, there are quite a few places to play, and I watched the recent guide on Weibo. It seems that there is a large production team filming a movie here recently, and it is a work by the famous director Wang Ting. Even Meng has participated in it. It seems like there will be a handshake and signature meeting at 2 o'clock in the future. You can go and take a look. Wu Xin pondered for a moment and nodded. He is also quite interested. After all, director Wang Ting, this name is not unfamiliar to him either. After all, Wu Xin doesn't have much leisure time on weekdays. As an ordinary person, when he is at school, he can easily play games and relax by watching movies and TV shows. So, for some well-known directors or celebrities, even if they don't pursue celebrities, they are not fans of anyone, and they are definitely very familiar with them. Speaking of Wang Ting, he belongs to the 7th generation of directors and is now considered a relatively charismatic director in the entertainment industry. The 7th generation is also a new force in the film and television industry today. After filming 2 good works, he can be considered a true influencer and has gained charisma in the circle. Some of these works have also been seen by Wu Xin. Although they cannot be said to be too stunning, in Wu Xin's eyes, they are still in the realm of being able to watch and sufficient for entertainment. And then there's Meng. How to say this person? He can also be considered a well-known figure. The child star debuted and was chosen as the protagonist of an anti-Japanese war drama at a young age. In that era, with a single work, he entered countless households and still has a high level of public awareness. Although Meng, like most child stars, has also fallen into a state of not being popular as she grows up, entering an awkward period and having no films to shoot. But compared to other child stars, he is still considered intelligent. In the past 2 years, he caught the fast train of the internet era, gave up the film and television industry for a short time, and joined the online celebrity industry. Of course, with his childhood fame and recognition, he naturally enjoyed this dividend, and there are signs of his popularity rising again in the past 2 years. No, it's actually rumored now that he has accepted a film contract again and will join the leading cast of Sniper. And soon, this film will be filmed in Hengdian. Wu Xin naturally knew this person, and he had watched the anti-Japanese war drama he made when he was a child a long time ago. It has to be said that that work is indeed a rare and excellent work, whether it is the director's skills or the acting skills of Meng, he recognizes it. Combined with the good first impression given, Meng Ga's impression in Wu Xin's heart is also like most people, who think Meng is a very positive person, so the impression is very good. He naturally became very interested in this signature. After all, for ordinary people, being able to go see the excitement and meet celebrities is also a good choice. Quickly, along the way, he and Pei Jianing arrived at the signing ceremony. This has also left the area for shooting historical dramas and entered a modern filming base. And at this moment, this place has long been overcrowded. Of course, in addition to tourists who come to play, there are also many group performers and special actors who stand in the crowd with their own actor certificates and resumes, trying to find opportunities for themselves. For many horizontal drifters who dream of overnight fame, they will not want to miss any shots or opportunities, even if only a single line can make them happy all day. At the forefront of the crowd stood a group of security guards, a burly man in a suit waving at the crowd with a smile. Through her eyebrows, eyes, and appearance, she can be recognized as the protagonist of this signing event, Meng Ga. Facing the crowded crowd, Meng Ga's face was almost crooked with a smile. It has been many years since he saw such a scene in himself. He has always been very distressed about his current situation, and too many people's impression of him has remained in his childhood. Moreover, his disappearance from the public eye for a long time has led to a sharp decline in his popularity, and there are no filmmakers looking for him to film anymore. However, fortunately, he is still smart enough to see the dividends of network traffic and join in, finally accumulating some of his popularity. And he also brought goods, making a bowl full and his mouth full of oil. If nothing unexpected happens, he will be able to return to the film and television industry after this movie, Sniper of the Wild. Quickly, the security on site began to maintain order, and Meng sat in the first place. The signing and handshake meeting began in full swing. The on-site tourists and fans can be said to be severely overcrowded, with crowds everywhere. Wu Xin and Pei Jianing also joined the team, intending to join in the fun. However, their position is clearly not very good, they did not grab the front position, but were in the last position. The crowd gradually moved forward, and about an hour had passed. Finally, it's Wu Xin and Pei Jianing's turn. Wu Xin was also very interested and spent over 200 yuan to buy 2 signature pens and 2 A4 signature cards from the official signing club. It's finally my turn. He walked up with Pei Jianing. However, at this moment Meng waved his hand to the assistant next to him, whispered a few words, and then stood up directly, not even glancing at Wu Xin and Pei Jianing in front of him. The assistant impatiently waved at Wu Xin and said, "Sorry, it's time for today's signature meeting. It's over now. Mr. Meng is very tired and needs to go rest." Wu Xin was stunned and said, "But we waited in line for an hour and even bought pens and signature cards." However, Meng and her assistant ignored them as if they didn't exist, packed up their things, stood up, and left the signing scene. End of this chapter. Chapter 6, Don't Come Over. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6, Don't Come Over. Wu Xin stood still, then frowned and looked at Pei Jianing next to him, then at the signature board and pen he had spent over 200 yuan on. Meng walked without any hesitation, not even looking at them with the remaining light of his eyes, as if there was no one here anymore. Besides the two of them, there are actually some tourists and fans waiting behind. Dear fans, I'm sorry to inform you that due to time constraints, this signing meeting can only come to an end here. We hope you can understand, as Mr. Meng's schedule is very busy and he has to prepare for work now. A staff member came out to explain. The fans and tourists below can only whisper. Including Wu Xin and Pei Jianing. How do I feel that this childhood idol is a bit different from what I imagined? Pei Jianing roast. The gap is a little big. I always think he is a very upright and cheerful person. After all, he is a celebrity, and we are just ordinary people. It's normal for him to not be a bird. Wu Xin said quietly, but he could see very clearly. As for people, they all have filters, especially since our impression of them has always been when they were young. But I always feel that's not good, said Pigeons. Let's go and see other places. Wu Xin smiled and patted Pigeons' shoulder. On the other hand, it's not far from the crew of Sniper, but it actually belongs to the same filming area. There is also a crew here. Although compared to the bustling crew of Sniper, this place appears particularly deserted. Apart from occasional passing tourists, no one is interested in the enclosed crew of this film, nor are there any guests or activities. This crew is called the Owl. At this moment, within the crew, Meng looked at the actor contact list in his hand and rubbed his sour eyes. Many actors have big crosses on their names. Just like the current situation, Meng's troubles are still a vacancy in the role. He naturally tried to contact new actors as soon as possible after Meng Ga's slip, in order to fill the gap in this area as soon as possible. After all, the opening ceremony was originally scheduled to take place 3 days later, and when all aspects of the crew were ready, the lead actor slipped out. The wealthy boss has now started to be dissatisfied and has even hinted to Meng that if the situation cannot be resolved soon, he may actually withdraw his investment. Also, the start date has been set and the arrangements have been disclosed to the public. The staff and venue of the production team need to spend money every day. If we don't start shooting in time, the money will be wasted day by day. This will be a huge loss. Meng did not expect that his first film as a director would face such a bloody situation. But he also contacted all the actors he could reach. His idea is still the same, to choose a well-known actor who meets the conditions and has some popularity to play this most important role is the best choice. After all, if there is not even a well-known actor in the entire film, then his market share and competitiveness in this film will be extremely small. But no matter how many people Meng contacted, the answers he received were all unanimous. Either it's because there's no schedule, or it's because the pay is too low, or it's the biggest reason that he's not well-known. Meng is a newcomer actor with no previous works or accumulated reputation. Nowadays, many actors still cherish their resumes, and any actor with some fame cannot trust such a novice director. So, Meng has been rejected until now, and he's almost mentally weakened. Forget it, let's go out for a walk and relax. Meng continued to make 2 more phone calls, and after receiving similar answers, he drew 2 crosses on the names on the contact list and put it away. If we continue to fight, we won't see much hope. It's better to stabilize our mentality first. After all, he also understands the influence of mentality on the upcoming events. Take a look at a group chat on your phone again. Some insiders have posted that the crew of Sniper is in full swing today. There is also a video of Meng sitting on the table with a face full of spring breeze, signing autographs for fans. Meng not only burst into a bitter smile. This is my neighboring crew. This gap is really not ordinary. Meng took a deep breath, put down his phone, and walked out of the director's office, intending to take a stroll and have a meal. However, at this moment, as he approached the outskirts of the crew suddenly, his eyes froze. He focused his remaining attention on the tourists in groups of 3 or 2 on the side. He noticed one of the people that is a young man, accompanied by a girl with short hair. However, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is the appearance of this young man. A slightly casual hairstyle, deep and sharp eyes, as if carrying shadows, as if the entire gaze was filled with darkness, making people dare not look at each other. A tall nose bridge, sharp facial contours, and a slight scar further enhance the unique temperament. The young man held the girl's bag in his hand and looked around, his eyes slipping from Meng's. Meng briefly engaged in a 1 or 2 second gaze with the young man. It was this gaze that gave Zhou Ming a feeling of hair standing upright. This feeling is like, for example. Zhou Ming lived in a building, and one day when he looked down, he saw someone holding a knife, staring at him with sinister eyes and sneering. Then he raised his finger and counted his floors, feeling the same way. Just a glance can make Zhou Ming feel chilly. However, at this moment, Zhou Ming was immersed in an excitement, and in the face of this eerie gaze, he was pleasantly surprised. This is a natural temperament. This damn eerie feeling. This unparalleled villainous temperament. This person I cried to death. He really. Zhou Ming fixed his gaze on Wu Xin in the distance. This naturally made Wu Xin in the distance also pay attention to Zhou Ming. After all, there are only those people here, who are tightly looking at you with a kind of affectionate gaze, don't you know? Yes, this gaze fell into Wu Xin's eyes, making him feel scared. When he looked at the other person, they not only didn't hide it, but also had a sense of surprise, and they looked at him without any panic. I'm super. Male copper. Hurry up. Wu Xin quickly tugged at Pei Jianing next to him. Simple male copper is not scary, but it's like this. I'm afraid it's not like encountering a pervert. However, at the next moment, the suspicious-looking man rushed straight towards Wu and the two of them, roaring. As he ran, he shouted, "Wait a moment. Sir. Don't leave. You are the person I want." At this moment, Wu Xin was shocked and pale. Don't come over, you. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Crime of the Giant Owl Wu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Crime of the Giant Owl Wu. It's not that Wu's crime is exaggerated, it's just that Zhou Ming is really crazy at this time. In the distance, Zhou Ming's eyes shone brightly, and the curve of his mouth opening could be described as a bloody mouth. He ran towards Wu Xin, waving his hand as he ran. If we use a more abstract adjective, it would be that if we slow down a bit, it would be the walking gaez. Wait, 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 wait. That person stumbled directly onto the hem of his pants and fell hard. Wu Xin turned around and wanted to leave. However, he still took a step slower. With a loud bang, his pants legs were caught. Wu Xin's scalp tingled and he looked behind him. He only saw an affectionate gaze behind him. The man lay on the ground, his suit dirty all over. He tugged hard at the hem of his pants, lifted his head, and looked at him with affectionate eyes. Don't leave. The first time I saw you in the crowd, I was certain that you were the person I wanted. Do you believe in a story that lasts for thousands of years at a glance? I am. You believe in me. There can be a story between us, a deep story, and I can change your future, giving you an opportunity for a villa, and a car. Big brother, I'm not interested in you. Can you please raise your hand and go find someone else? Upon hearing this, Wu Xin felt a sense of despair. Isn't this just to take care of him? He wouldn't be willing. Although he hasn't found a job yet, he's not going to sell his flowers. Actually, the main issue is gender imbalance, so he wanted to move forward with all his might, but he still underestimated the abnormal hand strength on the ground. Pei Jianing beside her squinted her eyes, a hint of murderous intent flashing in her eyes, and her small fist clenched into a standard fist. The next moment, abnormal, look at the move. Ah! Zhou Ming's screams came through. Stop fighting, don't fight, hero, spare your life. You misunderstood. I'm not a pervert, I'm a director. About half an hour later. In the director's office of The Owl, Zhou Ming grinned and sucked in the air conditioning while applying potion to his face. At the same time, he looked eagerly at Wu Xin and Pei Jianing sitting opposite him. After all, the misunderstanding finally came to light. Actually, it's also Zhou Ming's fault. He's really too excited. After all, it's not his fault. His career is currently in the most critical moment, and if he doesn't find a way to save it, his debut may end in a dismal ending. At the first glance he saw Wu Xin, he really had a feeling of recognition, feeling like he had finally found the person he was looking for. That kind of antagonistic temperament at first glance, that perfect fit feeling. If we really want to find someone suitable for that character, it's none other than Wu's crime. Because at first glance, he really thought Wu Xin was a villain. But isn't that what he wants? Since the path of well-known actors is no longer feasible, why not take the path of acting as you are? After all, even if you have to search, the next ones you can find are all newcomers. Compared to newcomers who have received professional training, sometimes even ordinary people without professional training can do it. In fact, this is what it means to act as one's true self, without the need for any skills. It's just a simple act of oneself. There are many great movies in film history, but they are not actually presented by professional actors. For example, in Wu Xin's previous lives, Hidden in the Dust, only one female lead is a professional actress, the rest are all ordinary people, and the male lead is a truly honest and upright pure farmer. This is a film that played in its true colors and ultimately received high praise and honor. There are also many similar examples in this world. So what do you mean? Are you coming to me to make a movie? Asked Wu Xin, who was facing him with a bewildered expression. Yes. And one of the main actors. Zhou Ming looked at Wu Xin with a certain expression and nodded. Ah, this. Wu Xin scratched his head. He has never seen such a situation before, which really makes him unable to handle it. To be honest, this kind of thing seems to be out of place with his world. In his world, he may only want to find a good job, save some money, buy a car or a house, and then marry someone he likes to live a happy life. Plain and indifferent, but there is also one's own plain happiness. As for what great wealth and fame, and what celebrity dreams, they have only been achieved when I was a child. But now, how could such a thing happen? Although Zhou Ming also bluntly stated that he is a newcomer and a small director, this film doesn't have many big shots, and even the production schedule after its release may be pitiful. But just making a movie is actually very tempting for many ordinary people. Making a movie can make people happy for a long time even if they appear on TV now, and of course, Wu Xin couldn't think of any reason to refuse. And he hasn't found a job yet, simply put, he doesn't have any income. Zhou Ming has already made it clear that there will be a film fee. May I ask, how much is the remuneration for this film? Wu Xin asked curiously. 1 million. Zhou Ming replied with a serious expression as he looked at Wu Xin. This is the price that Zhou Ming has decided to offer after careful consideration. In theory, Wu Xin is just a layman, and it is impossible for him to be worth this price. If we were to give him a market price of 50.60000 yuan, it would be Zhou Ming's conscience. But in Zhou Ming's view, in the current situation, the presence of Wu Xin, who is suitable for the character, is undoubtedly particularly important for the entire film, as well as for himself. Meng, you can all ask for 1 million, so why is the actor who best fits this role not eligible for this 1 million? What he needs to do now is to first determine the crime of Wu. Sleeping in bed. 1 million. Wu, the criminal, was also foolish. He is not familiar with this industry and has heard about how actors and celebrities make money and how they can make money, but he never thought that it would be so outrageous. And now in this world, as far as he knows, the level is much higher than in his previous life. Just to put it simply, the Hanxia film and television industry in this world has a classification system, and now the money mentioned by Zhou Ming can all be used to buy a house in his hometown, which is still the full payment. Wu Xin nodded and said, I can give it a try. This is your script, you can take a look. Speaking, Zhou Ming finished taking the medicine and handed out a document with a cheerful expression. Wu Xin took it and saw 2 big characters written on it, the giant owl. Then, the script still had the words Meng written on it, but now it has been crossed with a brush. Now above are the 2 words, Wu Xin, that Zhou Ming just wrote. It can be seen that this script actually belonged to Meng before. Was this character Meng before? Wu Xin asked. Yes, Zhou Ming sighed and said, he stood up to me and ran to the neighboring production team. To be honest, if I hadn't met you, I really wouldn't know what to do. You can just make do with this script first, and I'll print a bunch of new ones for you right away. Wu Xin nodded with a sudden realization and curiously opened the script. After all, the first experience in life is quite interesting. Next, he saw the plot of The Owl and his own plot. In the movie, Wu Xin's name is Song Passion, a native of Baoxian country. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Movie Plot. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Movie Plot. In fact, the plot of this police and bandit drama is quite simple. It mainly tells the story of the protagonist infiltrating the drug trafficking group of the major drug lord Sampa Shan, and setting up various traps to try to bring Sampa Shan to justice. Thus, during this period, a series of stories occurred where both sides engaged in a battle of wits and courage in order to capture Song Passion. Yes, although this movie is called The Giant Owl, the protagonist is actually not Song Pa-han played by Wu Xin, but a police officer. The protagonist's name is Lu Jingyi, who is upright, calm, and meticulous. His father is also a drug enforcement officer. However, when Lu Jingyi was very young, his father died on duty. Later, Lu Jingyi was raised by his mother alone. When he grew up, he resolutely admitted to the police academy and inherited his father's police number, becoming a drug enforcement officer. Due to his father's death, he swore to bring to justice the Song Passion in the Asian Triangle region, who was the mastermind behind his family's downfall. So, he resolutely took on the task of the organization and began a dangerous undercover career. The first and most difficult thing is how to get into the sight of the Sampa Shan group, because only by entering the vision of the Sampa Shan group can he possibly enter this group. So, Lu Jingyi's ultimate choice was to first pass through a courtesan who often interacted with a younger brother of the Sampa Shan group, and then connect with her and infiltrate the Sampa Shan group from the bottom. In the early stages of this plan, it was also carried out perfectly. Lu Jingyi quickly gained the trust of the courtesan and gradually connected with the younger brother of the Song Passion group. He then pretended to be a drug addict in front of him, saying that he wanted to get some goods to sell. Then, he was introduced to the periphery of the Song Passion group. This process lasted for several months. Lu Jingyi worked step by step and finally gained a glimmer of trust from the Song Passion group, successfully penetrating within the group rather than being limited to the periphery. However, just as he entered the Sampa Shan group, he discovered something very eerie. The entire Song Passion group adopts a batch management method, and there is not much that anyone knows, and what everyone knows is very limited. But Lu Jingyi has never seen the existence of Song Passion. It's as if this person doesn't exist at all, but rather a person named Kunchai, who is the main person in charge of the large-scale drug trade here. This not only confuses Lu Jingyi. Where has the big drug lord, Song Pa-han, who has scared the entire Asia-Pacific region? If it weren't for the accuracy of the intelligence being guaranteed, I'm afraid Lu Jingyi might have thought he was in the wrong spot. In order to explore the truth and dig out the big fish, Lu Jingyi started his undercover career here, enduring humiliation every day and having to close his eyes to turn a blind eye to some of the tragedies and incidents that occurred. Because his task goal is to uproot the entire group, he can only ignore some small details of evil. This is the biggest helplessness of these drug enforcement officers who are deeply hidden in it. But the biggest problem is that Lu Jingyi has never been able to find where the person in the Song Passion group is. Perhaps this is also why this person has been able to escape justice for so many years. Lu Jingyi and the organization have provided feedback, and ultimately concluded that this Song Pashan is likely being manipulated behind the scenes. It was Lu Jingyi who met someone in the Song Passion group. A chef who handles firewood and takes care of the entire group. After Lu Jingyi was punished, he gave him medicine and even made food for him. This gave Lu Xingyi a good impression of him, because in the entire Song Passion group, only this chef is not involved in these drug businesses. And according to the chef's subsequent confession, it seems that he was still caught here. That is to say, he did not voluntarily come here to provide services for these drug traffickers. Moreover, this chef is often punished and subjected to beating and scolding from some small leaders of the Song Passion group, always remaining silent. Lu Xingyi secretly calculated that if he were to catch the net in the end, he would also rescue the young chef. So, Lu Xingyi worked step by step here. In the end, with his outstanding skills, capable work attitude, and cooperation with the organization, he repeatedly made large orders, so he successfully infiltrated Kunchai's side. But Lu Xingyi never gave up on inquiring about the news of Song Passion. But the entire base seems to be under the control of this Kunchai. In the end, everyone was gathered together after being caught as an undercover agent. Yes, here, an undercover agent has been arrested. Prior to this, Lu Xingyi was unaware of the existence of this colleague. After all, their profession requires extremely high confidentiality, usually through covert single-line communication. But this colleague was caught and ultimately shot to death. His body was dismembered and fed to the crocodile. Lu Xingyi was watching from the side, his heart dripping with blood, and people were almost on the verge of going berserk. But he was powerless, for the sake of righteousness, he could only watch helplessly. Finally, he waited for an opportunity to find Song Passion. There is a top international celebrity who has made a big deal with the group. This business involves tons of high-purity goods to be shipped to Amaligian. And Lu Xingyi is to strive for this opportunity. Because according to the organization's analysis, it is highly likely that Song Pahan himself will appear on such a large order and personally oversee it. So Lu Xingyi is likely to have contact with him. So, Lu Xingyi volunteered and wanted to follow. But during this process, he faced a test. He saw people and goods, while Song Passion was behind another room, commanding everything. He couldn't see anyone, but Kun guessed that he was using a walkie-talkie to communicate with Song Passion throughout the entire process. Lu Xingyi was assigned the task of trial production. The so-called trial production, as the name suggests, literally means that the other party needs to draw someone from here to try it out on their own to ensure that this batch of goods is not a problem. Lu Xingyi was called, which left him stunned for a moment. But he could only grit his teeth and go forward. The other party took out their bank card and drew a bundle. Lu Xingyi engaged in a long psychological struggle, but in the end, he gritted his teeth and closed his eyes, picked up a straw and pointed it at his nose, then suddenly lowered his head. Smell, hee. Ha ha ha, Mr. Smith, look. Ha ha ha, this batch of goods is really good. You can rest assured that our reputation is safe. Lu Xingyi laughed and said shakily. But he didn't notice. Koen Kai nodded secretly, picked up the walkie-talkie, and said, "Boss, as you think, he tried. All our movie plots, without any negative guidance, serving as a warning. Thank you to the book enthusiast for giving me a tip. I like the headquarters in Xintai." End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Wu Xin's screen debut. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Wu Xin's screen debut. This is the tone of the entire story of The Great Owl. It is a story of wits and bravery between the police and a drug trafficking interest group led by Sampa Shan. In the script, everything is described in great detail, including the role that Wu Xin is about to play, Song Pahan, who is the largest leader of the entire interest group. In the script, Wu Xin knew all the details of this character. For example, the chef that Lu Xingyi recognizes in the drama is actually Song Pahan himself, but because Song Pahan is extremely suspicious and does not trust anyone, he hides in the dark. He will observe new people through this identity. Unfortunately, some details of Lu Xingyi's entry into the Song Passion group have raised doubts about this young man in Song Passion. He suspected that Lu Jingyi was an undercover agent sent by the Han Xia police, so he proposed the idea of testing Kung Kai. If Lu Jingyi is not a police officer, then he is likely to obey Kung Kai's arrangements. Moreover, regardless of whether his previous addiction was real or fake, once exposed, the fake becomes real. So, in the script, from this point on, the plot enters a turning point. Song Pa-han is very satisfied with Lu Jingyi's behavior. He believes that he ultimately did not trust this young man wrong. So, the transaction was successfully completed without any mistakes. Subsequently, Lu Jingyi was highly valued and successfully entered Kung Kai's side, becoming someone who could access the inner circle. So Lu Jingyi began a series of meticulous processes of collecting evidence and identifying relevant personnel, and has always been particularly careful in coordinating with the organization. But in the end, when enough evidence was obtained to close the net, Lu Jingyi was still exposed. This left him puzzled as to which detail had gone wrong, revealing that he was already very careful and even addicted to drugs for the sake of his mission. This made him both angry and extremely confused. He was imprisoned and faced endless abuse and physical abuse every day. But it was only when he finally saw the people who supported Kung Kai coming to visit him that he understood everything. Originally, the biggest mastermind behind the scenes has always been by his side. That chef is Song Pa-han. Song Pa-han is the chef. Although Lu Jingyi did not reveal any information to the chef, some details were still noticed by Song Pa-han. After a series of suspicious investigations, it was finally determined that Lu Jingyi was an undercover agent sent by the Han Xia police. Finally, Lu Jingyi was personally cut off with his hands, feet, and tongue by Song Pa-han. And they also have to endure the torment of drug addiction attacks. This character is so bad that even Wu Xin feels gritted his teeth through the script. But Lu Jingyi never gave in. He was left with a life and suffered daily abuse. But the Song Passion group and others were completely unaware that Lu Jingyi had already conveyed the most crucial evidence and intelligence. Even including all transaction books of the entire Songpa Shan group. The social celebrities and figures involved, if exposed, are enough to cause a major earthquake. It can be imagined that once this action is successful, it will bring glory to many families. Finally, the police of the 4 countries collaborated to locate the drug trafficking group hidden in the deepest part of the Asian Triangle region, and engaged in fierce battles and arrests. Finally, key members of the group such as Kun Chai were all caught, but Song Pa-han has never been seen. Because Lu Jingyi was unable to convey the most crucial information until the end, everyone did not know where Song Pa-han was. But when the perspective turned back to Lu Jingyi's side, he was imprisoned in a secret room, which happened to be the place where Song Pa-han used to hide some gold and valuable items. Song Passion returned to this place, preparing to leave with a batch of belongings, and this secret room also connected to a secret passage that only Song Passion himself knew. So, Lu Jingyi met the most impressive man of the past again. Lu Jingyi gritted his teeth in hatred. Finally, before Song Pa-han left, he didn't forget to mock him and spat thick phlegm on Lu Jingyi's face. But Lu Jingyi suddenly jumped up in the end, using his last bit of strength to bite into Song Passion's thigh and expose the veins on his face. Song Pa angrily cursed, but no matter how he smashed it, even if Lu Jingyi was covered in blood, he wouldn't let go of his mouth. Song Pa-han eventually pulled out a pistol and fired at Lu Jingyi. But after running out of the last bullet, Lu Jingyi opened his eyes before his death and did not let go of his teeth. He died without closing his eyes. The sound of Song Passion shooting attracted the attention of the police. Finally, under the confrontation of more than a dozen dark guns, this drug lord, who had been on the run for many years and was the largest drug trafficking group, was captured. And he was taken to reply to Xia Hanjing for trial. Until the last moment, Song Pa-han had no regrets and faced the camera with a devilish smile. But what awaits him will ultimately be a just trial of the law. The grievances of multiple families were finally cleared, and the Asian Triangle was also restored to a glimmer of light with the capture of the Song Passion group. But what this brings is the sacrifice of countless righteous people, and the peace paved with blood and tears. The ending of the movie is the curtain that falls at the funeral of Lu Xingyi. Lu Xingyi was covered with the national flag and buried in a magnificent scene. The entire play is over. Wu Xin held the script in his hand and couldn't calm down for a long time. Even Pei Jianing next to her was gritting her teeth. Because she is originally a soldier, she hates evil as much as hatred and dislikes such people. It has to be said that this plot really gives Wu Xin a feeling of shock. At the same time, even if he is an outsider, he has recognized a fact. This character is not easy to handle. A pure villain, if you want to act poorly purely, it's easy and not difficult. But the problem is that Song Passion is not just a simple and bad villain. He also has deep scheming and leadership skills, with multiple faces. There are many things that actors need to consider very carefully in order to find space for expression. Zhou Ming is a very creative director, which can be seen from his ability to have Wu Xin, an untrained amateur, participate in important roles. And this is a movie which has more requirements and considerations in terms of details than movies and TV shows. So, since Wu Xin has accepted this job now, he will now face the director's arrangement, which is normal. In the end, he still needs to receive a certain amount of training. This is understandable. After all, although Wu Xin is very suitable for this character, there are some micro-expressions, emotional tension, camera expressiveness, and so on. If someone has not received professional training, they cannot do these things in any way. For example, if you ask a plain girl to make that particularly seductive expression, see if she can do it. With that murderous and oppressive look on his face, look at any ordinary guy and see if he can do it. Alright, this Wu crime is indeed acceptable. But there are still many things that need training. This will also be Wu Xin's screen debut. He doesn't know what kind of changes will happen in his future, but he still looks forward to it. Next, it's the official announcement, movie plot, warning effect, no negative guidance. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. A Sparrow in a Door. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. A Sparrow in a Door. It has been a week since Wu Xin arrived on the set. That's right, since Wu Xin joined this crew, he has never left and was directly arranged into the crew's apartment by Zhou Ming. Yes, that's right, it's an apartment. Many people who are not familiar with this industry would think that the crew is filming at a film and television base, so they should be staying in a hotel or something like that, right? Actually, it's not, but a place called a film and television apartment. Nowadays, many shooting bases will build supporting film and television apartments, which makes it convenient for the crew to move in and saves a lot of time from the crew to the apartment. Moreover, most crew members actually insist on unified management arrangements for check.in. After all, convenient work is one aspect, and on the other hand, it is also to prevent the early leakage of information, so we will also sign confidentiality agreements with the crew and actors. If it's peak season, there may be 5 or 6 crew members living in a building at the same time. Even superstars are no exception, they still live in this type of apartment. However, this place is not more comfortable than hotels, as the production team usually signs batch contracts with these film and television apartments for a certain period of time, and the prices are very low. So the low price means that apart from some essential items such as beds, air conditioning, hot water heaters, etc., there won't be anything else. All supporting daily necessities need to be solved by oneself, and there won't even be a hangar for you. Wu Xin was arranged to enter a room in a nearby film and television apartment. Pei Jianing brought him many necessary supplies, but next, Pei Jianing also has to leave. Wu Xin himself stayed behind. I came out for a trip and inexplicably accepted a play appointment. Now I'm already in the film and television apartment. In the room, Wu Xin took a short video of a slightly rudimentary room. Later, I posted it on my own social circle. Soon, a reply from a friend arrived. Mom. Embrace, fireworks. Dad. My son has achieved great success and is going to film. Lin Yi. Oh, did your old classmate make a name for himself? Just graduated and went to film. Do you want to become a big star? Don't forget to soar to fame and bring your old classmates to develop together. Wu Xin frowned. This Lin Yi, it's a strange mix of yin and yang. This is one of Wu Xin's old classmates during his university years. To be honest, the two of them don't have much intersection. But there was just some unpleasantness. In their freshman year, Wu Xian and Lin Yi fell in love with the same girl. At that time, Wu Xian and that girl were quite close, so the two of them could also be considered rivals in love. Of course, it was once. Finally, the girl chose Lin Yi, possibly because Wu Xin was relatively low-key disciplined, so in their perception, it seems that Wu Xin's family conditions were not very good. Compared to local residents like Lin Yi, who originally came from a small city in the 18th tier, who are still second generation and have everything in their family, their competitiveness is still much smaller. Although the actual situation is not like this, Wu's crime did not explain anything. And the most important thing is that she is quite afraid of Wu Xin, and in the end, she is even more blunt. Wu Xin looks unsafe, and she is very afraid of being subjected to domestic violence or something. This left Wu Xin speechless. But being judged by appearance is not his first experience, so it's not something particularly outrageous. Of course, these are all past events, and Wu Gue had already let go many years ago. And as far as he knows, Lin Yi and the female classmate he once liked have also broken up long ago. But even now, from time to time, he still has a strange aura in Wu Xin's place. Actually, in Wu's opinion, it's quite boring. He shrugged his shoulders and ignored the comment. He replied to his parents and explained the situation in the Love Family group chat. Then, he replied to Pei Jianning's message and received a notice from Zhou Ming to receive training. Training, of course, is just some performance training. It can be said that Wu Xian's mastery in this type of character really surprised Zhou Ming. It's amazing, it's completely natural. It's really perfect to let Wu Xian play the villain. Even compared to others, Wu's guilt doesn't matter what he does, he just stops there a bit. Good guy, a born villain. The training went smoothly, and Wu Xin absorbed the knowledge points mentioned by Zhou Ming very quickly. Then it came to the most crucial preparation stage. That's it. A nutritionist has come to this apartment. Wu Xin, we're going to start dieting. The first and only issue for Wu Xin to participate in this performance is his physique. His physique is too healthy, without any traces of activity in the lean and yellowish jungle of Southeast Asia. At present, Wu's weight data is 120 pounds. He wants to lose around 101.105 pounds at the fastest speed through diet and exercise. To be honest, Wu Xian felt the hardships of being an actor for the first time. Pain, very painful, this feeling of being able to see but not eat, and also having to face a lot of exercise every day. But after watching the movie, the reward was 1 million. This is not as uncomfortable as moving bricks. He gritted his teeth and persevered, and in the end, it took another week. His weight reached the standard and he lost 102 pounds. During this period, his muscles were all tired, and compared to his initial state on the set, he was completely different. Of course, after losing weight, due to the slight collapse of his facial skin, his already deep and fierce gaze became even more eerie. And I really have the feeling of a murderer holding a knife in the jungle ready to kill anyone at any time. During this week, Wu Xian also met all the crew members and met other actors. The actor who interacts with him the most is naturally the one who plays Kung Kai and Lu Jingyi. As Kuan Gyu, he is a professional special actor and also a professional supporting role. He is a middle-aged fat man, very tough and called Wang Shan. The character who plays Lu Jingyi is a newly graduated student from the Department of Chinese Theater Performance, a very shy-looking boy named Xia Yuanmo. A little boy who left a particularly good impression on Wu Xin. He is very warm-hearted and can help the crew with many things. He can also carry luggage for other staff and actors who have just entered the apartment. It is said that there are many common topics among people of the same age, so Wu Xian naturally quickly became familiar with Xia Yuanmo. After more contact, he realized that this kid was not as shy as he appeared on the surface. This kid's second son Pricks the Ape, and he's also a dual community of homo and philosopher. These two kinds of anime culture are particularly mouthful. Without a certain degree of resonance, it is impossible to understand what it is. So, we had a common topic, confirmed our gaze, and found that it was of the same kind. They mixed up and became very good friends. It's also convenient for the next scene. Immediately, it was also the day when the production team held the startup press conference. Unfortunately, it's so hard not to die. On this day, I collided with the neighboring movie, Sniper. The natural outcome is that the opposite side is bustling with people, truly showcasing the appeal of a top-tier production team, which is in full swing, even with a lot of promotion and discussion online. And among them, there were only a few media outlets that Zhou Ming asked his grandfather to sue his grandmother, except for his own people. Some even appeared impatient and came to deceive them casually. Tragic, besides being miserable, it's still miserable. That's not to mention the attention on the internet, there's no such thing at all. It's just a matter of sinking into the sea, no one will pay attention to it. End of this chapter.